Small business owners are looking for financial independence. They're looking to leave a legacy for their children and spend time with the loved one. But the reality is that they're not achieving those. So they keep working. There are so many factors at play, and the stagnation that we generally see is only a symptom of something else. They begin to be afraid of failing, and they become conservative. No risk, miss opportunity.
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome to the Lessons of Entrepreneurship, the journey of reinvention. Today, I have a very special guest for you. I'm here with Mosongo Moukwa. You've had a tremendous career, and jumping into this space, I'm so excited to speak to you because you have really solid insights for our audience today. Please introduce yourself and tell us what's your mission.
Small business owners hire me to help them uncover hidden revenue. We have been able to find additional revenues in a multiple of six figures, freeing up their time and reigniting their passion. This allowed them to enhance not only financial outcomes, but also prioritize time with loved ones, and that led to renewed energy and purpose. My story is really a story of transformation and finding my true calling. I spent over 30 years in senior leadership with major brands, working in the manufacturing industry, chemicals, materials, plastics, ink, packaging, and so forth. And my career was punctuated with entrepreneurship. So one venture, then back to corporate, then another venture, then back to corporate. And eventually I decided that it was a time for me to take a leap of faith and venture fully in the world of entrepreneurship. So the call came when one of the companies I used to work for sold the business to private equity investors. That's when really I decided that, hey, it's probably time for me to do something else. My corporate career was extremely rewarding, filled with strategic decision-making, operation, business development, R&D, mentoring the young leaders, driving innovation, and nurturing a number of customers, most of whom were actually small business owners. I always felt a deep desire to create something on my own. So that's what I do. I support small business owners, and my methodology and strategy build upon my capabilities, which I've developed over the years in corporate as well as an entrepreneur.
Thank you for being with us, Mosongo. You are a best-selling author, business strategist, and as you mentioned, you've worked with major big brands that I think everybody would recognize: Philips, SC Johnson, Reichhold, Asian Paints, and you've had a really amazing career. I'm going to
Thank you.
jump to one of your books because I was going through the reviews and all the wonderful things that people were saying about you in terms of really your understanding of what it takes to be a business leader. Your bestseller, Be a Leader of Significance, Build Your Legacy, and Leave an Impact. What was the premise when you started writing this book, and what is it that you wanted to drive across that our audience of new entrepreneurs, because you find in entrepreneurship, they don't often talk about business leadership. They talk about everything else in popular space, and they don't often think of the entrepreneur, the small business person, as a business leader.
This is a great question. The book you're talking about is called Be a Leader of Significance. There is also another book which is called Revenue Revolution, where I'm describing strategies for them to grow their business. But to talk about the first book, when I used to meet people who work with me, and then we're getting together after many years, we were never talking about how many dollars that our activity generated, how much market share that we went into, and so on. But the discussion has always been about the experience they had while undergoing that process, while overtaking some other project. So it was not really about the outcome. The outcome was the result of something much, much deeper, which was really the experience. I've realized over the years that the human connection is really at the foundation of leadership. If you don't have that, then it's extremely difficult for you to lead people. So you have to put human connection at the foundation of your leadership. That book was meant for me to reflect upon my experience and then share some practices out there for those who are leaders or those who are aspiring to become leaders. So that's really what that book is about. And then the revenue revolution, that one talks about the strategies to help small business owners to grow and then leave a legacy for their loved ones.
This topic of business leadership in small business really interested me. One of our previous guests talked about how in small businesses you can get really quality people, even if they are being paid minimum wage. And that video clip on YouTube brought a lot of comments. There's this quiet quitting that's happening. And I think his message was about really taking on that leadership role, even for small businesses, because they are really suffering at this point in time with attracting people, especially now post the pandemic, where sometimes people were earning more not going to work than they were working for a small business. So I wanted to get your opinion on that before we jump right in.
No, this is a true procedure. For example, what are people really looking for? What people are looking for is, first of all, a sense of belonging. Early in my career, I was managing a group of technical people, and there was one chemist there, was a very bright fellow. As I was talking to him, I asked him, what is it about this place that makes you come here every morning? And I thought perhaps he would tell me, oh, it's about the chemistry we are doing. It's about all those new products, the great projects you are giving us, and so on. No, what he told me, he said, I like coming here because during lunchtime, I can play ping pong with Mike. And then I was a bit taken aback. What that told me is that the people are looking for a sense of affiliation, a sense of belonging. So for this individual, beyond those projects that we're doing there, but he felt that he belonged to something there, to a group. So that's number one. The second thing that employees are looking for, they're looking for what people are calling psychological safety. Just to give an example, many years ago, there was one young lady who used to work in marketing. She was transferred into my group. And as we got to know each other, I asked her about her experience being in marketing. She told me first she started that job in marketing. Her boss, if we can call him that way, used to get her involved in many projects, getting her input and so on. But over time, she was no longer invited to meetings. And then rumors started going there that she's not performing. And then I did ask her, I said, did you go to him and then ask him, why is it that you're no longer invited into those meetings? What she told me is that she felt invisible. She felt invisible and she did not feel safe to even go there and ask that question. So psychological safety is extremely important because it allows that space for people to speak up. Obviously, people must be respectful, but it's for people to not be afraid, to be able to speak up, to have their opinion heard. And it also allowed them now to fail without really too much afraid of taking risks, because we can always have that conversation if they fail. So psychological safety is important. The third one is that people need to feel valued. To be valued is something as simple as saying hello to somebody. I remember one manager many years ago, and that stayed with me all years. I was passing in the corridor and I told him, I said, hey, John, I've not spoken to you for a long time, but be assured that I did not forget you. And he told me later on, many months or years after that, that comment that I made there to him, which I could not even remember myself, he said that comment made him feel valued. He was part of something there. So even though I've not spoken to him for a long time, but he felt that he was part of something much bigger there that we were doing. So those are the elements. What that means is that the leader need to engage with their people. They need to build that trust, but that comes by being visible. People are not going to trust somebody they don't see. Yeah? So don't be in your office and you have the door locked, which is essentially what you're telling people. Don't bother me. I don't have time for it. So you need to have that, and you need to have what I would say persistent curiosity. Slowly get to learn to know your people, how they're thinking, what do they do even on the weekend. So you need to have that interaction with them. And this is something, unfortunately, in some of the companies that is really lacking, because they only see people there, they come, they work, they do the job, they leave. So they don't feel any part of anything. But obviously, as a leader, you need to establish a vision, but that vision should not be your vision. It has to be a vision that is shared, a vision that is shared by the employee, They have to find a piece of that vision that actually connect with them.
I'm very excited to jump into this pathway to profit methodology. There's so much that small business is struggling with across the world right now. You say that there's so many things that you encountered once you started working with small business leaders, common trends, and I think the word you used was psychological. I'm lost now as to what the word is.
Psychological pain.
Psychological pains. I said, I've
Psychological
never heard that one before. I'm interested to hear your take on that.
This is actually a great question because it's something that I myself experience. I could speak to that. The small business owners are looking for it. What? They're looking for financial independence. They're looking to leave a legacy for their children and spend time with the loved one. But the reality is that they're not achieving those. So they keep working. There are so many factors at play, and the stagnation that we generally see is only a symptom of something else. The symptom is the psychological challenge, and the pains are multiple. So what happens is that there is fear of failure start to set in. So many small business owners, they begin to be afraid of failing, and they become conservative. No risk, miss opportunity, they become afraid, and so on, because they have already put so much energy investment into it. Self-doubt also can set in. So many of the small business, they struggle with that feeling. Some of them even question whether actually they deserve those achievements. So that can prevent them from taking steps. Also, they don't want to take time off. I'm working. I don't have the time for the children because I'm afraid if I take that time, maybe the business will suffer and so on. So they become stressed. No quality time for family, which is actually a key component of their goal. That's why they are working. The other thing that happens is the lack of clarity and focus. As you and your listener would agree, without clarity and focus, it's very difficult for us to achieve long-term goals because you have all those daily distractions of running the business. You can't focus on strategic growth. So you become reactive, particularly for those who are working in a very tight margin business. That becomes even extremely difficult. And then you have now isolation, lack of support, because running a small business is a lonely proposition. Huh? So you feel isolated, struggle, and so on. So you have stress, anxiety, burnout, family strain, begin to lose that passion. So initially, it's very painful. But what I've observed is that then they start getting used, living in that space and feeling comfortable with it, and then justifying their situation without actually addressing the challenges. Oh, I cannot take my son to a football game because I have this business. So how to solve that problem? First of all, you have to understand those psychological challenges, which is essential for small businesses. The way to do it is to make them aware that they have been settling for something they're not happy about. So you need to bring that pain to the surface. That's the healing process. Because the number one challenge is really that they don't always know how to identify the problem. So we help them clarify those goals. So that's really what they go through. I myself, I went through some of those things because during my journey as an entrepreneur, I did not have a mentor. I did not have a coach per se. I went back and reviewed what I've learned in my corporate days, what I've learned from supporting business owners. I connected with people. I attended lectures. I even took additional courses to apply them. But I also felt alone, at the time frustrated, particularly in the beginning, the children in college. And then you wonder, if this thing does not work out, how am I going to be able to pay the tuition? So at the time you feel a bit depressed. But when I look back, what I've learned is that number one, you need to build a strong foundation for your business. And it takes time to put that infrastructure in place. Then you scale up. To scale up, for that you need to have the product and market fit. You need to generate those leads. You need to deliver your products and then retain those customers. So that is crucially important in the beginning, because if you don't have those things in place, then it's very difficult for you to perform because you continue to struggle. Then when you are at 6-figure and you want to go to 7 figures, that requires an entirely different operational structure because all of a sudden you need to deliver at scale. Now, in the beginning of my journey, I did not fully internalize those. Where to spend my energy, what alliances I should have. You read those things, you take classes, but when you're at it, really, you get lost. So now when I look back then, I say, actually, it made sense why I struggled. But at the time, I had no idea what would happen. It was like building the World Trade Center without an architect, without a plan. But I kept at it, going at it, and so on, until everything then seemed to align. If you remember the movie, The Lord of the Rings, perhaps some of your listeners may remember that movie. The protagonist there was a fellow called Frodo. So, like Frodo in that movie, I've reached Mount Doom. I can get to those small business owners because I've experienced what they experience, and I've discovered strategies which I can describe to you shortly here, and the process that got me there that I would like to share, because now I'm then experiencing the pleasure, and I would like them to experience that. That's really what I went through into my journey there.
Thank you for speaking to that, because I think when you now describe what the psychological pains, I think even the listeners are saying, okay, I know that feeling. And you've got to identify how you're settling for something you didn't intend. That was not why you got into this. And now you've settled, probably because of not knowing the way to proceed forward. You said the
Yeah.
first step, having the right structure, can take some time. To the person who's listening, they're trying to assess, do I have the right structure? What does the right structure look like?
Product market fit, which means what is your position on market though? What is your unique proposition? I'm selling this skin product, but why that skin product is unique? There are many skin products out there. What is your compelling offer? That is essential for every business to define that. And finally, the people you target, which market are you going to there? Is this product for young people? Is it for older people? What is it here? Or is it for everybody? This is the basis for you to do that. Now, obviously, there are other things. Do you do strategic alliances and so on? But one thing that I've learned, probably your listener, they know about this 80-20 rule. Essentially says that 80% of the effect comes from 20% of the causes. So what I've discovered is that 20% of what we do every day is actually responsible for 80% of the revenue. So the question is, if you are a business owner out there, are you spending 20% of your time on the business, not in the business? Because many of the small business owners actually, over time, they've become like one of the employees. But are you really spending 20% of your time on the business? If you focus 20% of your time on the business, then the effect of that really will have tremendous impact on 80% of your revenue. Now, what do you do for that 20%? Within that 20%, then you have to focus on leads, conversion, closing rates, retaining those customers, how much I should charge, cost, and so on. So that should be part of your 20%. Now, which one should you focus on? So you have 7 areas there in 7%. Which one it should be focusing? Is it 1, 2, or 3? What I'm saying is that focus on all 7. The reason you focus on all 7 because there is a compounding effect. So you increase the lead, you increase the conversion. You can take any generic case there. So today, take your business, take those elements and so on up to revenue, and then minus the fixed cost, variable cost, and then you have your profit. Now, if you increase each one of them incrementally, even by 10%, your profit now you'll see that you have the opportunity of increasing it perhaps by 50%. But I'm saying 10%, you can do that with your closeout. Shoot for 40%. If you do 40%, then you can even more than double your profit. So 80-20 rule, that's what you need to start. So what that means is that you focus now 20% working on the business, not in the business like other employees, but on the business, which means that you have to free up your time, which means that you have to delegate those things that you have been doing there. The small pipe broken there, you jump in there, you start to work, delegate those. So then that frees up your time. Then you can now focus there. Now you can take John, who's 10 years old, you can take him to a football game. Then now you can say, Madam, let me take you for a nice dinner next weekend and so on. So you can free up your time that way as well. So that's what I'm proposing here.
That's really critical what you just said. A lot of times you've turned yourself into employee number 1 and the business has got no leader. There is no one thinking about giving direction to how things should move. And you're
Yes.
so into things that you can't stretch yourself out to see what you should do. And you can't do more of what's not working and
Yes,
hoping
yes,
that
yes.
it will work.
That is the spiral that many small business owners tend to go over time. So they are putting so much energy, but the business actually is not moving fast. And they're busy. So they become busier and busier. They don't have time for anybody. They don't have time for the family. They're stressed. They're anxious. They're afraid to fail. They're wondering why the business is not going well. The interaction with other people become extremely difficult and so on. The way I try then to coach them, because I know we can achieve the financial outcome. But my coaching approach is really about integrating every aspect of life: the physical, the mental, the emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental, in a kind of holistic form. So we're going to get the money, this opportunity. And I know my process certainly work, and those ideas I put there, I know they work. But I do that because I believe the true success is not just about hitting the financial target or gaining market share, but it's also about creating extraordinary results that also improve the quality of life for you and those around. So when I work with people, I focus on building that deep emotional and spiritual connection between them and their work. I found that leaders, when they truly connect with the spirit of their business and their team, that all of a sudden opens up a tremendous potential for incredible performance and meaningful change. So what do we do then? So we start by defining what success looks like for them. What are the ultimate goals? And then connecting those goals to a deeper purpose. So what I mean that if you are a person, the luckiest person alive, what would that look like, Mr. Horner? So you have to define that. Now, if you want to achieve a $5 million or rand or whatever, what would you do with that money? What is your motivation? What I find when you begin to have that conversation, you realize that what the people are telling you is actually may not be really the financial outcome, but it's something else. For example, one client told me, "Oh, I would like to achieve a $2 million. If I achieve that, I promised myself long ago, I'm planning to buy mother a house, $400,000 house. And mommy, this is for you. I'm grateful. I feel very good." So in that case, then this goal of financial outcomes become only a conduit to something much more deeper, right? Which is actually their dream. But over time, they forgot that. They forgot actually that's what they wanted to do, right? To buy a house for their mother, because they've just been busy work. So we try to bring that to their attention, because that becomes then something that will guide them through that coaching job.
Thank you so much for that. Really about that connecting with the spirit of the business and the deeper meaning as to why you're doing it. Like you said, people forget, or maybe they not so much forget, but as things get harder, they lose that connection with how possible is this? Let me just stay alive. So to that entrepreneur, small business person who's like, you're talking about me, Mr. Mosongo, you're talking about me in the business, and what can I begin to do today for me as first step to moving out from in to working on the business?
Two things. Look at where your time is being spent. That's number one. Tomorrow, go there. Look where your time is being spent. Are those activities that you are doing there, are they really helping you to grow the business? Or these are just things that really you should not be involved? So start looking at that, and you're going to realize that there are many things that you as a business owner, you are involved in that frankly you should not be involved. So come out of this mode, working in the business, and start acting to work on the business. That's something that the business owner can do the way tomorrow. So then when you sit there, then look at now if I know where my time is going. So let me now try to focus and spend that 20% of my time on the business in an extremely focused way. And then I can focus on leads. I can focus on frequency of sales and so on. So that's something that they could start readily tomorrow. But in many cases, it's difficult because there are just so much pressure going on. That's why I advise some of the business owners, particularly if they are in that place where they are struggling a little bit, to have a mentor, to have a coach that's going to help them in the process. That's what I would say.
Now I'm going to take you to the communication I had with you on LinkedIn. You said
Okay.
to me, it's not about marketing per se, but it's about messaging. And I said, okay, tell me more.
Yeah. Business is not about marketing. It's about messaging. It's really about tapping into the conversation that is taking place in the head of your prospect. So that's really what it is. Because it's really to be able to address the number one question that your prospect they have in mind. So that one revolves actually around two major emotional issues. One is the problem they cannot get rid of. And then number two, the solution that they desperately need. That's really what it is. Through my research, what I came up with is what I'm calling the conversion formula. So that's just a way of thinking about the customer needs. So that means that the number one, captivate the customer. So by stating the problem that the customer has and they cannot get rid of. Number two, fascinate them by making a promise of a solution that actually going to address their issue. Number three, you have to educate them. So you need to provide with them evidence of your product or services so that they are superior to anything out there. And then finally, you close by making a compelling offer to them. So if today, for the small business owner there, for anybody out there among your listeners, just go pick up many of the website there, look at it and ask yourself, what is the offer? You're going to realize that many of them, you are unable to really extract what are they offering. Pick up a law firm, for example. I just go there and then ask yourself that question. So because they have not been able to really address the conversation that is taking place in the head of the people. So just give you an example. We work with one cosmetic surgeon and she had a business. Advertisement was nurturing the body that will provoke true envy. So that was the advertisement. The question
Mm.
is, does this really enter the conversation that's taking place in the head of the customer? And then changing that advertisement by, do you want the body you had before you had children? So all of a sudden, the message is different now. Huh? This is the case of ladies. They're not looking to nurture the body that will provoke, but instead, for particular for the young mothers, they want to get back to the body they had before they had children. So that resonated very well for them. So what was happening is that before they were doing this advertisement through Facebook, costing them $6,000 per month, only 35 potential customers. Once we change that, then what has happened is that all of a sudden, the number of leads went from that 35 to 400, 67% opt-in, 12% conversion, and that brought in for them 120,000 per month just by changing that message, which actually became like a unique, compelling proposition. Uh, You want the body you had before you have kids, as opposed to nurturing the body that will provoke envy. They're not looking to provoke envy. They want to get the body before they have children, particularly the young mothers. So by doing that and by changing now their messaging around the captivate, fascinate, the educate, and then close, they were able to achieve that. That's what I mean by it's not about marketing, but it's about messaging.
That's a great example. Marketing trends that are quite cheeky. I can see why people think that, oh, the body you envy sounds really good. But
Yeah.
like you
No,
said, it's not.
it, it's not entering the conversation. That's not what the people are thinking. She thought that's what the conversation they were going. Actually, no. The young mothers, the conversation they're going through is that, I really want to get the body I had before I had these first two kids. So that's really what they're looking. So just by changing that message. But marketing is really a strategic procedure. So the issue that the business owner they have failed to understand is the buyer job. So if you look at the buyer, what happens? The buyer goes through this information gathering and before they purchase. So in fact, the research have shown that only 1 to 3% of the buyer they're actually in the market to buy at any time. So which means that 97 or so percent out there, they are on this buyer journey. So they are going around, they look what is out there, they look, why should I buy? They even ask themselves why I should not buy, and then who should I buy it from? So if you organize your messages around those elements, what I found is that the number of those touch points, so the number of contacts that they have with your business, if it was the 100 before, now is 20. So you cut down those types of interaction by almost 80%. A few interaction, then they are in, because that message resonated with them. So that's really what.
I'm interested now to hear your take on the social media marketing world, because you mentioned that they were running Facebook ads to amplify this message that was not connecting with their audience. You see what's happening in social media marketing. I'm just interested to know your perspective.
Yeah. Most of the time in the social media marketing, what is happening, Priscilla, is that it's usually very tactical. It's never strategic for the business. They say, oh, you'll buy this, so many clicks, we'll get the people there, and then you pay so much. Rather than, if we're going to do this social media, this message really resonates to people because it really goes into their head and so on. So that's what it is. The big companies, they do it very well because they have all those resources. But the small business who is making a shampoo there, small manufacturing, they don't have the resources or the thinking. They're busy working in the business. So that's what it is. They have good intention, but they don't always have the free space in their brain to think freely. So if they could free that time and then begin now to think strategically, they could. But they're bombarded by those things, because if you look at what's happening in digital space, you have the SEO, you have that, and you have lots of things there. So people tend to gravitate towards LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. So that's what the small business owners, they tend to do. But regardless of what you do, messaging still has to be important because you need to tell the people what is your compelling offer. What is it that will really resonate with you?
Thank you for that. Be careful of being all tactical and then there's no strategy behind, because you really can get carried away with the tactics and there's no results and it's not driving the business, but you're very busy. I wanted you to give us the premise of the revenue revolution. Transform your small business earnings without relying on advertising.
The premise is that I've seen that many of the small business owners, because of all those difficulties, they are facing a number of challenges, better market opportunity, struggling with time, they need to increase average sales, and so on. And they do not have really the tools like the big company. I work for big companies and I can see the resources they use to put towards those. They will have a group there interviewing those prospects and so on to really capture what they're looking for. The small business owner, they don't have those resources. So that's why I wrote that book. I said, let me capture those ideas over the years and so on, and put it out there so at least they could get something there, give them the tools that the bigger company. So that was the plan. So in the book, I'm outlining a number of strategies, and people can read those, and then probably they can get some good idea that is there. So that's really why I wrote the book.
I'm going to push the boundaries a little bit, Mr. Mosongo.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to give us a teaser, give us one of the strategies, and then people will know what to do from there.
Okay, so let's take, for example, cost reduction. Now, many of the small business today, they don't always, at least many of them that I've came across here, they don't always have a good idea of where the money is going. So take your credit card, take your bank statement, go through it, look at it one by line, see which item there really is toward revenue generating. You'll be surprised to see that there are many activities out there that actually they should not be spending money. Sometimes their business credit card is being used by family members and so on, and they have no clue where the money is going. So that's something that is there. In a big companies, those things are fairly well regulated. When you go for a trip, you come, you have to submit your travel expenses, and the people in finance, they will go through item by item, what exactly matching it with your expense. The small business owner, they don't always have the time nor the energy to go through that. So when they work with a mentor or a coach that really sit down with them and they're beginning to go through this, then all of a sudden they realize, oh man, lots of money have been wasted because they're too busy. They don't always have the time. That gives you a simple illustration that people can connect.
That understanding how much, whether it's time or how much money, whatever resources is going to revenue generation, to really know that at the top of your mind.
Even private people, regular people, many times they don't even go through their own credit card and they just come, oh, I have to pay it. They pay. They don't say, why is it there is a $10 here? What happened here? Oh man, that store, they made a mistake. Or man, I have this subscription for years, which I'm not even using, and it's costing me $200 every year. I should cancel it. And $200 back in your pocket. I've been in restaurant this time there, spending so much money. Oh man, this month I put maybe $300 there. Entertaining those people. I really have to be careful.
But put that money back in your pocket. Thank you so much. Please, to the audience, if you can go to mosongomoukwa.coach/book a call. I think you're offering 7 spots.
Absolutely. What I've decided is that for your listener, to provide them some value, that there is an opportunity. I'm writing the second edition of my book, which focuses on strategy that I've been advocating for business growth. But during the interview, I'll share these strategies with them, which they can then take and use in their own business. And then in return, I will provide them also a pathway to profit for their business, where actually they could take those strategies, apply them, and then uncover those revenue opportunities, have a roadmap which they can use. Now, I don't have a lot of spots on my calendar. Otherwise, I'll be booked for the months and months. But I'm giving away 7 sessions, small business owner, for them to take advantage of this. Go to my website, mosongomoukwa.coach. So book a call there. Let's talk. Do mention that this is the podcast here with Priscilla Shumba, so that I know it came from her. It's on first come, first basis. So I only have a few. If you don't see any spots, that means we have run out of spots. So I just thought that will give them more value. You can interview them and they can learn more about those strategies. And then later on, we can have a deep dive into their business, and then I can show them some of the other things.
Thank you very much for that. There's only 7 spots. First come, first serve. And you get the opportunity to really get this wealth of wisdom and experience from Mr. Mosongo Moukwa. Thank you so much. It's been a great time. I look forward to when your next book comes out.
Thank you, Priscilla. It's been a great conversation. I enjoyed your questions, and hopefully your listeners, they find a great value from this conversation as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.